I never thought I would see the day when I caught my husband cheating on me, but there he was, in our own bed, with his mistress. To make matters worse, his mistress was none other than my best friend. The woman I had confided in and trusted for years had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I stood frozen in the doorway, unable to tear my eyes away from the scene before me. My husband and best friend were tangled together in a passionate embrace, their naked bodies pressed against each other as they kissed fervently. Anger surged through me like a wildfire. How could they do this to me? And in our bed no less. The very bed where we had made love countless times. It felt like a betrayal of not only our marriage but also every intimate moment we had shared. As I watched them, a mix of emotions swirled within me. There was hurt, of course. A deep ache that seemed to radiate from my chest and spread throughout my body. But there was also a strange twinge of arousal. Despite the pain and anger coursing through me, I couldn't help but admit that what they were doing looked incredibly erotic. My husband's hands roamed greedily over my best friend's curvaceous body, tracing every dip and curve as if committing it to memory. Her head lolled back as he nipped at her neck, eliciting a low moan that sent shivers down my spine. I hated myself for feeling this way, for finding any sort of pleasure in their betrayal. But there was something undeniably arousing about watching them give in to their most primal desires. My husband pushed my best friend onto her back and began trailing kisses down her body, pausing to worship her breasts with his mouth before continuing his descent lower. A soft gasp escaped my best friend's lips as he settled between her thighs, his tongue flicking out to tease her swollen nub. She arched her back and dug her fingers into the sheets, a moan of pleasure escaping her as he expertly licked and sucked at her. I felt a surge of envy shoot through me. It had been months since my husband had touched me like that, since he had made me feel so desired and worshipped. And here he was, doing all of those things to another woman. The sense of betrayal was overwhelming. But alongside that feeling of betrayal was something else entirely. A growing heat between my own thighs as I watched my husband pleasure another woman. I shifted uncomfortably, trying to ignore the throbbing need building within me. My husband's gaze locked with mine for a brief moment, his eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. Was it guilt? Regret? Or perhaps it was something else entirely, a hunger that mirrored the one I saw in my best friend's eyes. He beckoned me over with a crook of his finger, his expression pleading and apologetic. My heart pounded in my chest as I warred with myself internally. Should I walk away and leave them to their indiscretions? Or should I give in to the illicit desires coursing through my veins? In the end, the decision wasn't really mine to make. My body moved of its own accord, crossing the room until I stood at the edge of our bed, mere inches away from where they lay tangled together. The air was thick with tension as we looked at each other, an unspoken question hanging between us: what now? Our marriage had been shattered by this betrayal, but in this moment, there was still a flicker of something that remained. Without saying a word, my best friend reached out and took hold of my hand, intertwining our fingers. Her touch was surprisingly gentle, offering both comfort and connection in a time of utter chaos. My husband's hand joined ours, completing the circle. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. Despite the hurt and anger that threatened to consume us all, there was still love here. A complicated, messy love that defied easy definition, but love nonetheless. As our fingers entwined, my husband leaned forward and pressed his lips to mine in a soft, lingering kiss. It was a bittersweet moment, a goodbye to the life we had known and a tentative hello to whatever lay ahead.